Hi guys, this is probably about our third webinar now, and I think we're still learning how to use the technology, but certainly we're getting there. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight. So this is our end of year payroll webinar. Very exciting stuff, I'm sure. Payroll is definitely something that gives people a lot of stress, I guess, because there's so many things that you need to think about at the end of the year. You're making sure, you want to make sure that you get it right, because if you get your payment summaries right, then potentially that's really going to affect your staff members' tax returns and what they do there. So yeah, so that's why we want to go through some of those things, make sure you have all those things in order, make sure that your payroll also agrees with what you lodge to the ATO, and just talk about some of the tips and tricks and things that you need to be aware of, as well as some due dates that are coming up. So let's get stuck into it. I'll just start with this one here. So just general advice warning. So remembering that anything that we talk about tonight is general. If you have specific advice that you require for your own circumstances, please get in contact with us, and more than happy to go through those things with you. Of course, we've got the chat available. So if you've got, I can see I've got my chat box open ready for any questions that you guys might have. If there's anything that I think is appropriate to answer at that time, I'll answer it. Otherwise, I might wait until the end, or I'll directly contact you with any questions that you might have. Housekeeping, so microphones have been turned off. So some people ask me when we do these webinars, can you see me? No, I can't. When I ask you to raise your hand, it's because I'm asking you to press the button on your GoToWebinar. So I definitely can't see you. I can't hear you either. I've turned that off purposely because there's so many of us who sit in on these webinars, and it might be just a bit much too if everyone talks at once. So unfortunately, it's just me that you're going to have to put up with. So no sound, I can't see you. Again, feel free to ask questions. I might answer them as we go through if it's appropriate to answer at that time. Otherwise, I might wait to the end to go through some of those things. And just letting you know that we are recording the webinar as well. So for some of you who are watching it right now, might be playing it back. And if you do have to duck out halfway through the webinar, don't worry, we'll be sending it out to you, or even if you just want to watch it back as well. There's going to be the feedback survey that's going to be coming out as well. Sorry, we've changed it now, so it actually pops up at the end of the webinar. So when we finish the webinar, if you can help by just filling out that survey, that just really helps us to make sure that we're creating useful content for you, and we can make any changes, improvement that are going to help you in watching and joining in the webinar. Okay, so that's housekeeping. Next, about me. I'm looking a bit more glamorous in that photo. My hair's a bit of a mess today. But yeah, so that's for those who don't know me already. That's me, that's my qualification. So my friends, family and staff members tease me regularly about being addicted to studying, and that's definitely me. I love studying and learning. So I've got a few qualifications now under my belt. And still looking to do more as the years go on as well. So I'm the accountant here, as well as advisor and mortgage broker. So I must admit, I definitely get involved in the payroll here. That's a big part of what I do. But the lady who's the payroll manager and extraordinaire within our firm is Gina Green, and she is absolutely amazing. She already now is getting ready for tax time. She's already starting to look at the clients' accounts and make sure that they're all ready to go. And that's simply to make sure that everybody gets their payment summaries as soon as possible, and we're not holding up any of the employees from doing their tax returns. So absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. We do tax returns for hundreds of different businesses, and she's responsible for, largely responsible for getting all those ones sorted. So and she actually helped put the content together tonight, so I can't take all the credit. So Gina, if you're watching this, thank you for your help. All right, so topics to be discussed tonight. If you've been joining in some of our other webinars, good news is that this isn't such a long one. I know we had our tax planning one and that went for over 2 hours. That was quite a big session. But the payroll, there's not too much to cover. And we'll be sending out some of the slideshows and things. So if you do have any questions, get in contact with us. But tonight we want to kind of keep it fairly brief. So first things, we're going to go through payment summaries and due dates, superannuation, single touch payroll, how Hannans can assist you in the process, and what you need to do to assist us in making sure that we manage those things efficiently, common payment summary errors, and upcoming possible changes for you as the employers. All right, so first one, producing payment summaries for employees. Let's be honest, this is the most important thing for most people because they need that piece of paper in order for them to, lodge their tax return. So we get some people who are so keen that they contact us before the financial year even ends. That's how they are, how keen they are to get their tax return. But that's a really important one. And if you get it wrong, it makes a big difference. We've certainly been on the receiving end as the tax agents processing the tax returns and seeing some significant errors, I guess, and that has made quite a bit of a difference to the client. It meant that later when the error was picked up, they've had to amend their tax return and then possibly have to pay money back. So we need to make sure that we get it right. So number one, if you are not using something like Xero, which allows you to lodge, to prepare and lodge payment summaries, then you'll need to get the paper copies and order them from the ATO. So lucky for you guys, again, if you're a client, we have those copies on file here and we'll be assisting you and providing them to you. But if not, make sure that you've received them from the ATO because that's really going to hold up the process. And if you order them now, you'll get them in time to ensure that you'll be able to get those payment summaries out to your staff members. We actually have, just on that topic there, we have a client of ours who has, I think she has over 50 staff members throughout the year with her turnover, and she used to manually, up until I think last year, was manually writing out the payment summaries. It was almost like a whole week event for her to do payment summaries. And now with Xero, it's a click of the button. So love technology. So if you're still manually writing them out, make sure you embrace technology and talk to us if you're not already on Xero. Okay, so payment summaries, they must be out by the 14th of July. So that's really important. It's really important that you hit that deadline. Of course, you don't want to be holding up your staff members from being able to lodge the tax return. So really important that you hit that. Of course, there are penalties involved if you don't, submit it to your staff members in time as well. And hopefully we're not letting it get to that point, but that's really important. That 14th of July deadline is really a key one that we need to be aware of. Annual reports must be submitted to the ATO by the 14th of August. So what that is about is letting the ATO know how much you've paid. So obviously you need to send it to your staff members and then you need to flick that information onto the ATO. They give you a little bit extra time to do that just to make sure that you've got all your files in order, which is good. Often we use that time frame, but again, using Xero, it's another click of the button and you've sent it off to the ATO, which is just brilliant. Again, back in the day, you'd be burning these files to CDs and putting it into the post box and sending it off to the ATO. They would lose it. It's such a drama, but now click a button and it flicks it off to the ATO. There are some key things that you need to do before you send it off to them, of course, and we'll go through that in just a moment. Okay, so start on your payment summaries once the last pay is processed. So like I said, she's got her calendar and she's mapped out when everyone has their last wages and she's ready to go, ready as soon as that last payday comes, she's ready to press the button on the payment summaries and get them out to staff members. So you don't have to wait until after the 30th of June, after the end of the financial year. You can start preparing it as soon as you've processed your last wages. And you're going to have very staff members if you go out of your way to get them out as soon as possible as well. Ensure all employee records are up to date. So if for whatever reason, when you set up the staff member, you don't have the tax file number, the date of birth, their address, the email address, you need to make sure that those things are in place. And importantly, you need to make sure that they're up to date as well. So if you've got a staff member who's changed address or for whatever reason changed their email address, make sure those records are up to date. So start doing that now. If you've got lots of staff members, I've worked in organisations where we've literally got hundreds, over 300 staff members. That's a really big job. And we were doing it, a month out from the end of year to make sure, just strictly focusing on making sure the data was correct. So that's a really important one. Make sure you get that right. Right, now producing your pay slips or payment summaries rather. So any wages paid up until the 30th of June is considered part of this current financial year. So you'll notice the key thing that there is paid. So it doesn't matter if they have done the work. If they didn't get paid until the 1st of July, then it doesn't need to be recorded within the payment summary. So that actually causes a lot of drama, because if your Xero is not quite set up right, or if you haven't processed it correctly, it means that your staff member's payment summary may be incorrect. So please be mindful of that. If you are not sure, firstly, check it before you send it out, or definitely have a chat to us, and we can guide you through that process and make sure that you've done it correctly. Or alternatively, we might actually just be doing your payment summaries for you. So leave it up to us and we will do those checks ourselves. But if not, please make sure that you check that. Please make sure that you're not including wages. So look back to the 1st of July and make sure that you haven't duplicated on wages. Maybe you already, recognize the wages last year because you did the wrong thing last year. And so then you're recognizing it this year, and it gets a bit messy. So please make sure that the date that you've paid it is the date that you recorded on the payment summary. So anything, even if they did the work this financial year, if you haven't paid them until July, then please don't record it and include it as part of the payment summary. Gina tells me that's one of the biggest things, so she reminded me to keep going on about that one because it causes her a lot of grief each year. So okay, so ensure all wages and wage-related expenses and liabilities are reconciled. So again, if you are doing your own payment summaries, it's not a case of getting to the end of the year and just pressing send. You need to make sure that the information is correct in your accounts. So let's talk about why there might be issues. For instance, you've paid someone cash and you haven't recorded it properly through the payments system, then you're going to have an issue there. It could be an issue where, and this happens often as well, is that when people are actually processing the payments through the bank reconciliation, rather than marking it off to wages payable, they incorrectly mark it off to wages expense. So what happens is that you've overstated your expense within your accounting system. So you need to make sure that you cross-reference your payment summary information from your payroll system against what shows up in your accounts. So check your profit and loss and your balance sheet against your payment summary reports and make sure that those two things correlate. I think Xero actually have some really handy end-of-year payroll checklists and even payroll webinars. So check those out. Go to the Xero hub, and they've got some Xero University, and they've got some really good stuff on that. If you're not sure, if you can't find it, get in contact with us and we'll lead you in the right direction. Again, I think most of the people who are attending tonight's webinar, we actually do all the hard work for you. So you sit back and relax. If this is you, if you're looking at me like, how on earth do I go about reconciling those things? I don't know where to start. Good news is you don't have to worry because we will do that for you. But if you are responsible for doing it for yourself, again, please make sure you're actually balancing the payment summaries and the payroll system against what's recorded in your accounts. Okay, next one. So ensure correct allowances are shown where applicable. This is, for some reason, this tends to be one that gets overlooked, and I think it's because it's not processed correctly in the wages system. So allowances, what do I mean by that? So allowances are things like your travel allowance. So particularly if you're a plumber or a carpenter or in that sort of trade industry, or even salespeople often get a lot of travel allowances. So those things should be recorded on your payment summary and they need to show there. So you need to make sure that A, it is recorded, and B, that it displays in the right area. So it can't be included as part of your gross wages. It actually needs to be taken out of the gross wages and included in that allowance section. So some of those things are travel allowance, tool allowance, laundry allowance, living away from home allowance. These are just some examples of some allowances. And again, they should be included at the bottom of the payment summary. And I'm pointing because I'm visualizing this payment summary in front of me, but it's normally taken out of the gross wages and included in the allowances. Now, why is this important? One, it helps the employee, when they process their tax return, to recognise what are the things that they can claim as a tax deduction. So allowances tend to represent things that the employee has been out of pocket for. So if they're getting travel allowance, it's because they're using the car or, traveling. If they're getting laundry allowance, they might be in an industry where they're required to do a lot of laundry. For instance, they might be paramedics or something like that. So the allowances help to break that down. And another thing as well is the allowances don't have tax. Often they don't have tax withheld with them. So if you put into the gross wages and don't break it down at the bottom, it could mean that the staff member ends up paying heaps more tax than they need to. So that's a really, really important one. So if your staff members receive allowances, please make sure that you break it down appropriately in the payment summary. If you haven't set it up correctly in Xero, it might be included in that gross wages. So, and again, if you're unsure, you can either chat to me in the chat now, or get in contact with us and we can help you with that. If you're providing paper copies, you only need to provide the employee copy to the staff member. They don't need to get all 3 copies, because often, there'll be triplicates and things like that. So you don't need to do that. Just ensure that you only give them the employee copy only. When you're doing the payment summaries, there's normally a payment summary cover header as well. So make sure that you've got both different types, one that goes to the employee and the one that gets submitted for your company or business as a whole, which summarizes everything. So, so there should be information online. Again, get in contact with us. You hear that I keep saying that. I must admit, again, most of you that are attending tonight are clients of ours, and we tend to take care of all this hard work for our clients. So, but even if we do take care of that, I think it's just important that you understand the processes and the things that go on behind the scenes. So yeah. So annual report can be done online via ATO portal where applicable. So it's really good. The ATO's embrace technology now. So there's a lot of things that we can do quite efficiently. And I mentioned it before, if you're using software like Xero, you can prepare, issue, distribute, and lodge everything on Xero. Xero has been one of the best things that has ever happened to me, because like I said, we used to spend hours writing out these payment summaries, and now it's literally a click of a button, and you're sending off the payment summaries to staff. You don't have to manually write them out. It just emails it off to them. You don't even have to post it anymore, which is great. So really, really good. Okay, so that's payment summaries. Let's talk now about superannuation. So there's some key things that we want to highlight there when it comes to super. So for super to be tax deductible, so for you to claim it as a tax deduction, it has to be paid and processed by 30th of June. Now, that's probably not quite correct. It definitely needs to be processed, but you do have until the 28th of July. So as long as you paid on time, so its due date's the 28th of July 2018, your super for this period. As long as you pay it by that time, we'll be able to claim it as a tax deduction. So we have some clients who unfortunately going through some hard times and have cash flow issues, and it has meant that they're behind in the superannuation. They might be behind by $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 in super. So the ATO pretty much says, hey, you haven't done the right thing by not paying the staff member on time, so we're not going to give you a tax deduction for it. So, if you do have, for instance, $50,000 outstanding, that equates to about $15,000 in tax that you're losing by not paying that on time. So if you're behind in your super, please make sure that you get it up to date if possible. By then, if you're having cash flow issues and you can't pay it on time, talk to us, because there are actually solutions in place to assist clients with cash flow, and we can talk about those things as well. But definitely that's really important to get that super paid on time. There's all sorts of other things that you need to consider if you're not paying your super on time, and I'll actually talk about that in a bit more detail in just a moment. Make sure your employees provide fund details. So again, when you go to do everything, maybe you're not paying your staff member because they don't have fund details. They should all actually be signing as soon as the staff member joins up with you. They should be filling out a choice of super nomination. It's actually compulsory that you get all employees to complete that. So if that's not part of your onboarding or employment processes, please make sure that you find out what that form is. So it's employee super choice nomination. You can Google it and it will come up, but you should have a default super fund so that if your staff member doesn't know who to join, or they want to join with yours, then they will default to yours. Otherwise they nominate to super fund of their own preference. So the good news is that on that form it actually states that if the employee doesn't provide you details within a set period of time, then you can actually just pay to the default fund. The reason why that's good is because in this, if you're trying to pay somebody and they haven't given the details, it doesn't have to hold you up. You can just pay it to the default super fund. At least you've done the right thing. It's then just up to the staff member to sort out things on their end. Okay, so all businesses should have a default fund. I've read ahead. And so, yeah, so just make sure that you do that. And super liability account should be reconciled and any short payments corrected. So when we talk about reconciliation, so you should be paying, generally it's 9.5% is how much your super is. So just check your accounts and make sure that it's being calculated correctly. I find that Xero is pretty good with that, to be honest. Back in the day when we used to use accounting systems such as MyUp, those figures were manually keyed in. Whereas with Xero, there's an option where you can just go SG payments and it will automatically adjust the super percentage each year as the legislation changes, which is awesome. So normally it should be fine. There shouldn't be too many issues. Again, where you might have issues is if you haven't reconciled your accounts properly. But then, yeah, so that should be fine. So again, make sure that your payroll system agrees with your accounting system. All right, I think I had a poll in here somewhere and I think I've glossed over it. So I'm actually going to ask you, sorry, and I can't even ask you now because I've given you the answer. So the first poll was supposed to be when a payment summary is due. But I don't think I'll do that now because I've given you the answer. So reminding you that it's due on the 14th of July. So I do have another poll coming up, so I'll make sure that I remember to do that one. Okay, so all super is due by the 28th of the following month of the end of quarter. So I mentioned that before. So the 30th of June, so the current quarter that we're in, ends on the 30th of June, and you need to have all your superannuation paid by the 28th of July. Again, another good thing about, I feel like this is a Xero ad and it's not supposed to be a Xero ad, but they've just, they've put in so many systems and processes that make our lives so much easier. So if you are using systems like Xero, you can now click a button and they would take the super weekly super amount from your bank account. So some clients that pay weekly, sometimes they pay monthly, or they'll still pay quarterly. Weekly can be a really good option because in terms of cash flow, rather than having this, gigantic superannuation bill like a $10,000 or sometimes or often quite more, you can progressively pay it each week. So it might only be sort of $600 or something like that each week, which is a lot more palatable than a big $10,000 super bill. So if you're not already using SuperStream, have a look at that because it's definitely worthwhile. Saves you a lot of time and you don't have to worry about sending off paperwork or logging on to other systems. You press a button and away you go. The ATO introducing a super amnesty. I actually did a Jack chat. Actually, it wasn't a Jack chat. It was just a regular video on the super amnesty. And so that's really important. So, because we're going onto the single touch payroll, they've given people an ability to catch up on the super and say, hey, we won't penalise you as long as you get it up to date. And in the webinar, there's actually a link and I'll show that to you in just a moment. This is a bit of a scary one, so that you're looking at introducing criminal charges and jail sentences for those that do not meet the super obligations. I think it's a bit scary, and I don't want to say I agree with it, but I kind of do in the sense that I think people need to take these things seriously. Too often, I guess, businesses use the superannuation as cash flow within their business, and that's not appropriate. That super actually belongs to the staff members. That's what they're entitled to, and it needs to be factored within your cash flow. And you need to recognise that that needs to be paid just as well as their wages does. So, and I think for too long people have kind of neglected those obligations. Albeit small businesses, if you're struggling for cash flow, they don't intend to not pay the super. It tends to be a result of not having good cash flow. And that's why I feel like the criminal charges are probably a bit harsh, because, you know, they're not intentionally trying to do the wrong thing. But yeah, so it's something definitely to be taken seriously. So again, if you're behind in your super, we don't mean to scare you, but certainly get in contact and we can look at strategies and develop some strategies and how we can help you to get on top of that. Employees can now move funds from one super account to another using the MyGov. So if you're, for whatever reason, if your employees need to move super funds or they need to consolidate, you can all do that via MyGov now, which is pretty cool. Okay, so this is where I'm going to go to that poll. I'm going to go a slide back because my poll question relates to that. So I mentioned just now single touch payroll. And so I'm just trying to pull out my poll. Okay, so I'm just going to launch this one now. And hopefully you can see it. So, okay, so this one here is, when does single touch payroll, so that's what STP stands for, when does single touch payroll start for employers with less than 20 employees? So I'll let everyone answer that. I'll just wait for everyone to, I can see some people are already answering it. Okay, all right, so let's see how we went. 1st of July 2019. Okay, so most people said 1st of July 2019, which is correct. So well done, everybody. That's really good. Let me just, okay, so single touch payroll. So yes, it starts, so for those who've got more than 20 employees though, it starts from the 1st of July 2018. So that's less than a month away. If you've got more than 20 employees, you need to be all over this, because it's quite a significant change to payroll. So a lot of people are supportive of this, saying it's wonderful. There's just going to be all this transparency, real time. The ATO and super funds will have real time data in terms of your wages. So as soon as you process the wages, they'll know exactly how much your pay-as-you-go withholding is and how much your super is. So I have a lot of clients that, whilst some people think it's good, some people are a bit nervous about it, because, you know, they have so much information on you. Some people don't process wages all the time. They might be self-employed directors who, you know, don't stick their wages through all the time. So it's really going to have people to be all over this. And I guess ultimately it's just to, for the you know, for the government to be have a great understanding on transparency in terms of how much your wages and your super is, so they won't have any issues moving forward of not knowing if people owe super, and if so, how much, because it will all be there. So as soon as you process your wages, they'll have that information. And from the 1st of July 2019 is where it kicks off for all employers. So so for us, we've got less than 20 employees, so we sit within that category. Good news is that Xero has STP capabilities. So again, if you're using Xero, then you're all sorted and everything's fine. But if you're not, if you're still manually processing, then potentially you're going to have issues. So, and this is why they're having this staggered approach. They're obviously doing the big businesses first, because they should already have, you know, electronic payroll systems, one would hope. And they're going to, I guess, test it out, make sure it all works fine, and then they're going to bring on the smaller employers. So if you don't know anything about this, again, there is a lot of information that's available online, and we can chat to you about that, but definitely make sure that you do know what's going on there. Check your software is in use. If you're not using Xero, check out and make sure that your software can do it. So obviously if you're using MyOb or Recon, please make sure that that's all working for you. Yep, so again, real-time access. These figures are then matched to the figures provided when the IAS and BAS are being lodged. So we actually do that at the moment. We do it manually. I guess a lot of these things will be automated and connected, which is good because it will, you know, save time and things like that. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of, again, transparency with it. So the big things to consider there is the information reported through STP will be shared with MyTax. So information will be pre-filled, replacing the need for payment summaries. So we're going to really move to this automated electronic world. It scares me a little, I must admit, But as soon as your employer processes wages, there's not going to be this manual payment summary that's going to be issued at the end of the year. It's as soon as it's done, it's done. You'll have that information that will link. And everything's just going to talk to each other. So yeah, so definitely it's amazing where technology is going and how much things have changed. I know for me, since I've been in the industry, again, I talked about manually handwriting out hundreds of different payment summaries. Now, with the click of a button, everything just flows through. So preparing the wages for yourself only, it is a legal obligation to provide pay slips each week. And so therefore all pays need to be processed as due, and they cannot be left until the end of the month or quarter or done all at once. I must admit, a lot of my, like I talked about the self-employed directors, a lot of them are doing that. You know, they'll just take the wages out. They don't worry about processing using their accounting system because it's, you know, too much extra work. They might do it at the end of the month. You won't be able to do that now. You'll actually have to process it in real time. And I don't know if Xero are doing it. I hope that they do that. Hopefully then Xero just flicks on the automated so that you're not having to manually process. And I think that will help solve that issue for a lot of people, because often it's just getting around to doing the paperwork as opposed to, you know, trying to hide something. It's just about, you know, getting around to doing it. Payment will still be made as usual on the IES and BAS for the pay-as-you-go withholding. So they're not saying that you have to pay the tax component straight away, although who knows, that might be the next step that they go to. So you'll be able to pay it either monthly or quarterly. The pay-as-you-go withheld when you normally pay it, but certainly they'll have that real-time information. If you report the figures for the STP and then you find out that they are incorrect, so don't worry if there are corrections that need to be made, that you can let them know and you can have it adjusted, but it has to be done within 14 days of finding out the error. And again, like I know for, you know, even when we're doing tax planning, often what we'll do is we'll get to the end of the year and go, well, should we pay our director any wages? And then we can decide at the end of the year rather than having to be all on top of it all throughout the year. A lot of possibly we won't be able to do things like that anymore. It will have to be decided for progressively throughout the year rather than waiting for at the end of the year. A lot of people, this won't affect too much. I think, again, if you're self-employed and paying yourself a wage or a director's fee or allowance, this is largely going to affect you in the way that you, you know, manage those wages. So something definitely to be aware of. Okay, awesome. So I know payroll can be a little exciting, and so we've thrown in some jokes there for you. So we've tried to find some employer jokes. I thought these were pretty funny. Michael found these ones. Thanks, Mike. So joke time. So dream job. Wally, I need you to do an inventory in our warehouses. It should take about a month. Hypothetically, would anyone know the difference if I made up the numbers? Well, no. Excellent. Dream job. I hope I don't have to explain that to anyone. If you don't get it, then tough. This next one's, I won't read out the next one. I'll let you read it. You can do your own little voices in your own head. Employees who don't want money. And this is the last one here. If you think they're funny, maybe they might just be accountant jokes. Maybe only I get it because they're accountant jokes. Cool world. Cool. All right, let's move on now, shall we? That the joke time tells me we're halfway through. So like I said, it's not a big session tonight, which is pretty cool. We're going to move through pretty quickly. That there is the Jack Chat. I'm not going to play it now because I think it's going to stream a bit funny over the webinar. But that's the Jack Chat there. It is available on YouTube, and we also published it on our Facebook. But it talks more about. Goes in a bit more detail about the super amnesty and single touch payroll. So that was a quick webinar, quick video that we recorded just the other week. So if you're not all over that, please have a look at that. And the ATO has a lot of information on it as well. And like I keep saying, if you get stuck, just give us a call and get in contact with us, and we're more than happy to go through it with you. All right. Okay, so how can Hannans assist you with this process? I think, again, I've been going through it all the way through as we move through. If you've got an accounting package with us that includes payroll, we'll automatically reconcile your accounts and do everything you need to do. Sit back, relax, and we'll take care of the hard work for you. When I say we, it's actually predominantly Gina, so thank you, Gina. But if not, yeah, please get in contact with us, and we can obviously assist you if we don't manage your payroll. If you get stuck, we're still there for support. And this is Gina made me put this one in. What can clients do? I said, I'm talking to the clients tonight about payroll, Gina. What can I tell them to make sure that they assist you and therefore help you to get those payment summaries out sooner to the staff members? And there's a couple of things. Again, I talked about it already, but let us know when you've processed your last wages, because we can send out the payment summary straight away. We don't have to wait till the end of the year, the end of financial year rather. And that's really good, because again, if we've got hundreds of clients that we need to send payroll out to and send the payment summaries out, we prefer to do it as sooner rather than later. That gives us more time until that 14th of July deadline. And it also means that we're doing it in a staggered approach, so we're not having to do everybody at once. If you plan to lodge manually, again, let us know. We can just make sure that we have enough payment summaries for you. I'm hoping that most of our clients are now on zero, so I don't think this will apply to a lot of people. But if this is you, just make sure that you let us know so that we can be organised for you. Okay, so common payment summary errors. I actually talked about a lot of these things, so I don't know if I need to go into too much detail, but incorrectly including superannuation guarantee on the payment summaries. We used to see this a lot because they only added this line into the payment summaries, I think about 3 years ago. And so people got confused and they thought that when it says, extra additional employer contributions, that they meant superannuation guarantee. But no, it's not that 9.5%. So don't include that. Some people get confused there. Not including allowances. I talked about those things before. Often they forget to break those things down. Doesn't really make a difference to you, of course, but it makes a difference to your staff members. So when they go to process the tax returns, they might not be maximising their tax deductions. Including reimbursements on payment summaries. If you've reimbursed somebody, for something they went out and bought, I don't know, lunch for the team, as an example, or stationery, or whatever it is that you've reimbursed them for, it doesn't need to go on the payment summary because you've claimed a tax deduction for it. So by putting it on that payment summary, that the staff member is then going to be taxed on that income when really you're just reimbursing them for an expense that they incurred. So yeah, please don't include reimbursements. And again, I talked about this one already, including wages that have been processed. You should only include wages that are physically paid within the year. So hopefully I made that one clear enough. If not, again, you know where we are. And this is the last slide. God, we got through it really quickly tonight. I'm really happy with that. So upcoming changes, so things that you need to be aware of. Gina actually attended last Friday. She went to a workshop with the ATO. So some of these things I didn't even know. So I was really interested to hear about some of these things. So they're moving away from the AusKey. Thank goodness, because if you're like us, we struggle with the AusKey. We're forever having dramas with it, and the ATO know that, so they're decommissioning it because they've decided it's just too hard and they don't want to be supporting it anymore and supporting the software and infrastructure. So they're moving away from the AusKey, but still a while away. It's still 2 years away, but it's coming. Tax file numbers can be applied for online and will be available in real time, which is cool. So at the moment, it's quite a bit of a process. I remember when I first applied for my tax file number, I had to, get all my documents and send it away and have it come back and all the rest of it. So good news is that that's going to be automated. Now this is a big one that I receive a lot of emails about this, but yeah, the ATO are launching a mobile task force on the cash economy. And they'll be visiting 60,000 businesses that have been red flagged. So you won't just get an email and a phone call. One day they'll just show up at your place of work, which is a bit scary, I know. If you're doing the right thing, I guess you've got nothing to worry about. but they call it the black economy, so the cash economy, something that they're very, you know, missing out on, you know, millions if not billions of dollars worth of tax, you know, and the common ones are, you know, the bakeries and, you know, people are still trading cash, I guess the construction industries and things like that. So something that they are targeting, and they've sent us a lot of correspondence about it. So something they're very serious about, and they've thrown a lot of money towards it. So they mean business. So heads up on that one. They are looking to make it illegal for any cash payments over $10,000. If you're like me, I heard about this recently. I think it might have been the budget that this came out. So this has not yet been approved by the government, but they've proposed it already. So again, this is all part of that cash economy and trying to do away with that and people not declaring those funds. But anything over $10,000, they're looking to make illegal. Taxable payment reports, so ATPRs, I think the annual taxable payment reports. People are still getting used to these things, but they should be available online, which is awesome. That's fantastic for us because this is something that we still have to do manually and can be quite painful. Those who have Xero, you can lodge online, but it can be quite painful. And that's going to be possible from the 1st of July 2019. With that one there, if you so some people are looking at that going, oh my gosh, what is that? That's another thing that I need to be mindful of. And yes, it is potentially, but it just depends on what industry you're in. So they rolled it out initially for those who are in construction, and they're now rolling it out to more and more industries. I thought the note was there, but it's not. And so, yeah, you will know, so you will be contacted if this affects you. But pretty much what it is it's a payment summary for non-employees. So if you've got somebody who's a subcontractor who works for you regularly, you now need to report to the ATO that you're paying these people. And again, it's all about this cash economy and making sure that people are declaring the income that they're earning. So again, we get a lot of dramas with this of people switching from sole trader to company, and then the business that they're working for haven't updated their records. So this can cause a bit of grief, but unless you've been notified that you have to submit a taxable payment report, then don't worry about it. But yeah, if you're in the construction industry and some of the other ones that are coming on, it will be something, an extra requirement that you need to take care of. Again, if you're with Xero, it's somewhat a click of a button. That one's a bit more involved because you have to make sure that things are being coded correctly, but that's pretty much a click of a button and away you go. You've lodged that to the ATO. So guys, that's it. That's us for this evening. Nice and quick, I hope. It's taken us about 45 minutes, so that's not too bad at all, I think. Hopefully that's been really helpful for you guys. Just hang around for a moment. As soon as I close this off, you'll get a feedback questionnaire just so you can let us know your thoughts and questions and things like that. I have received some questions, but I might close off the webinar and I'll answer those in private. Hopefully although I don't think there's too many crazy questions there, because I think I've covered things in quite a bit of detail. I've said it all throughout the night, but I'll say it again. If you get stuck or if you're unsure, please contact us and let us know. Make sure, how can you help us? As soon as you finish your payroll, contact us so that we can start firing off those payments. Well, reconciling the accounts first, making sure they're in order, and then sending off those payment summaries. So Gina would be upset with me if I didn't emphasize that a bit more, because that's going to help her, and then to help you and your staff members to ensure that they get the information as quickly as possible. So hopefully that helps you. Some exciting changes, or not so exciting changes, coming up. If you've got any questions, just holler at us, guys. We're only an email or a phone call or a visit away. So have a good night and enjoy the rest of your, I think it's Wednesday now, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.